digital art, like right now, we've got a multiple form. Like there is not one form of digital art. Like there's a way of, I think it's one of the most advanced form of expression for contemporary art. Like people were using paintings before and they were sculpting. They were using like different tools, and now digital art is a new tool. And the media that we are using could be projected on a big building or on big LED screens or on TV, interactive or not. It's just like using different technology, that the same stuff that people were like in Venice back in the day in the 16th century with Titian and Veronese. They were using like paintings and like different kind of color. They were finding different technology to create their paintings, and now we are using like technology to create art. So it's just like a normal evolution of creation. That's it. Like this is a new way to create things, and we are doing this since like the time we were painting in the cave. So now the fire is a projector, something like that. We touch a lot of different fields. Could be like live show with artists. Like we work with like A-list artists like Jennifer Lopez, or like more friends like Blondish, for example, like electro or house creator music. We work with big brands like Google, like to create like marketing stunt. We work with museum. We just finished an installation in Pompeii to show all the artifacts in Pompeii, the city of Pompeii. So I think our role is to make people to amaze people and to make them like see the world in a different way. Like let's say when you do a mapping on a building, people pass in front of this building every day, and one day everything changed just for one night or for a week. But just like to create new perspective and to inspire people, like music. Like sometimes you can you listen to a song like Bob Marley's song, for example, and your day is different. And I hope that we're doing the same. But we are touching different fields, so it could be for a live show, like I said, or for an exhibition, or for a marketing stunt. But we try to make people feel a different way, to inspire them, I think. Montreal, it's a good lab. Like you have a lot of creativity, a lot of people interested, and you're free to create here. Like they give you a chance to try and to experiment new things. I'm from France, and in France it's much more like narrow for what you have to do. Like at school, like the program, like they are just trying to create new programs like we get some calls like to get like some how do you do this? But in Canada they started to do that like 10 years ago. Like they like state of the art here in Canada or in Montreal. Montreal I think is because we work in Vancouver, we work in Toronto. But Montreal is a special place. It's really funky. So people try a lot of things in music. The same for the electro scene. Like a lot of things have been created in Montreal. And in what we do, you have a lot of talent. And I don't know if you have one state of the art. Like there are a lot of different currents, a lot of different and it's most of the time it's like the way that things are mixing and merging and creating new form and new shapes. And it's really evolving every day. So there is no one thing, but there are multiple things happening at the same time. So I don't know if you can say a state of the art, like in an example, but what I like with Montreal is like it's really creating vibes of energy all around, like in North America or in Europe, and some companies like us, like working even in Middle East, in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, works in some places. So it's really like shining everywhere, and like New Tech, for example, is an example of festival trying to experiment new things with music and visuals, and it's one of the example, like multiple examples that we have. So, and I really like Montreal because, like I said, they let you try things, and you can meet people with like bright minds and create new possibilities. How we grew up like this. I think the talent of the artists and the engineers, like the people we work with, like the friends, like the family that we have, because our company is more like a family. Like we work with the same people and we meet more people. Like it is really like we feel like a family, like brother and sisters, and we work all together. So I think like it's one of the big part of how we make things, like a lot of love shared, and same will to create new things, and the same like will to push forward, you know, to create and to try new things all the time, and not stay in a closed environment, trying to be open to the others and meet new people for the family, like, you know, and can always expand and try new things. So and with a mutual respect with everyone always, and we are lucky enough to be like to always meet the good people at the good timing. So it's part of the game too. You know what, like once I was doing like a project for Google in Vancouver, and I get this example because it's a good example. So for days it's like a hive. You have technicians and artists and engineers, and we are like, and my partner and I were like multitasking to organize everything day and night, and it's raining, it's not raining, like day and night. And at some point it's 1 AM, and we're the day before the show, and everything is working well. It was for the 10th anniversary. And I don't know why, but at some point I'm just by myself. There is no one anymore because everybody went to sleep because everything is working for the next day. So I'm at 1 AM alone, and I'm working with this huge net in the sky, and I'm playing with it with my phone by myself. I'm like, why it's fucking working now? I did it! Anyway, and then you have this old man coming with a bike, alone. I'm like, he's like, man, what is this? And I'm like, oh, it's an art installation for Google. And the guy say, why are you doing this? And I'm like, it's a good question. Like, I worked for months. I think the launch was in March, and I was working since October with Google team in San Francisco and my partner in Dubai, and like all the one of the guys was in Japan at some point. It was a crazy production, and I never asked myself why I was doing it. I was just doing it. And I'm like, it's a good question. Like, I never asked myself why, like spending hours and days to simulate and to organize and to take plane and everything, and I never asked myself why. So I told him, like, you know what, you can survive with food and water, but you cannot live without this art. Like, you cannot live without like inspiration. So I think this is like part of the answer for your question, like passion, and at the end you inspire people, and see like some people will just like pass through and say, oh, I don't care. And one of them, like me, when I was a kid, I saw something, I was like, whoa, and then changed the course of my life for what I wanted to do. So I think like the more you try and the more you express around, like it's exactly like music, my friend. Like the more you express with people, the more they will react to it or not. But the more you have reaction, and more reaction you have, more you have like, you know, it's coming by itself. Like it's like a when the snow is falling from the mountain. Like what is the name of this? Like in English, like in Spanish.
Avalanche.
Avalanche. Okay, but in Spanish, what is it?
Avalanche.
Avalancha. Una avalancha de creación, ¿no? That's a good question. I'm not the one to say it. Like people, I just got an example. Like we did another project in Vancouver with this beautiful artist named Sana today. She's a pianist, amazing contemporary pianist. She can play like. Anyway, so we were doing like the first edition of a mapping festival in Vancouver with one of my friends there, and I wanted to do my closing ceremony because we work with contemporary artists that don't use mapping at all, and we give them the tool and explain to them that the building was like a canvas, and we explain all how to do mapping and everything, and they create just to have a different point of view. They were from the mapping or digital art, they were like from another kind of art, and wanted them to try to create things, and they create amazing things. Anyway, but I wanted to have my piece, so I worked with my friend Sanaz, and we had this Fazioli piano. We connect the piano with captors, and every time that she was touching a note, like we have some visual like happening on the building. And before this happened, I was speaking with the curator of the museum, of the Vancouver Art Gallery, and she was like, we are not doing entertainment, we are doing art. I say, okay, but you know, what is what? Like, she will play contemporary piano, Philip Glass, like she was interpreting flip glass, the rush, and I will like have like interactive visual on the building, and people will see it in the street. So is it art or entertainment? The line is pretty, fine. But at the end, anyway, we got like something like 2,000, 3,000 people in the street like applauding on what we did, and the girl, well, like the woman who say like, we're not doing entertainment, we're doing art. She was crying, saying like thank you, because people were feeling it, So are we artists or entertainers? Like I think, from my point of view, art has to be something that entertains you, in a good or bad way. You know what I mean? If you don't feel anything, for me it's not art. But this is my point of view, once again. So. It's a continuity. Like I said, like we started like digital art, like it's another form of art anyway, and it's different tools. But like we were doing art in the cave and playing shadows on the cave with fire camp and doing painting in the cave. It's just an evolution, and at the end we are just light in the universe. So just another tool, but it is exactly the same. Like we are particles like flying through the universe. So you know what I mean. So we are light at the end of the day. So if we're using digital or paintings or pigmentation of paintings or projectors or LEDs, it's exactly the same. There's like different ways to express it. I think it's more about like connectivity. Before, more and more people have access to tools. Like now, like this is a camera, and I can speak with my friend in Colombia like this, and you can take a picture and put it on Instagram. And so more and more people can, like this was like 20 years ago was a huge like warehouse with like big computers. This is everything is, and one day we don't have this anymore. Just have a chip in the brain. So just, I think it's more connectivity between people, and at the end, people can more interact with the art and create all together. And we, like I said, we tried this with Google or Wix in New York, for example, like trying to have all the people like interacting with the piece and create all together a piece together. So I think this is going more and more through this direction, like to have like not one artist and people look at the show or look at the piece, or you can still do it, which is interesting, like to be passive in front of or just like contemplative. But I think we are more going to interactivity with the art itself. Like people can create, and everyone can create and enjoy the creation, and and enjoy at the same time it's happening. And I think we are with eMotion, we are pushing towards this direction, like slowly, like to have people like not only being like spectators, but actors of the piece itself, or creating the piece itself. This is what I think. Because right now what you have VR, we have MR, mixed reality, we have AR, we have mapping, we have interactive mapping, we have and it could be projected or on the screen or on Google. So I don't know if it's still young, my friend. I don't know. Like cinema became an art like what, after like 100 years? Like I don't know, like we see cinema as a new form of art. It's 7, I don't know, like you have the number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and cinema is the number 7 something. Yeah. So perhaps digital art is number 8, or perhaps into digital art you have 8, 9, 10, 11, I don't know. This is like a good question. But the example of Vancouver Art Gallery, like for the curator, she was like, we are not doing entertainment, we are doing art. But at the end, when she saw the piece we created, she was just like, this is art. Like when people can interact with the piece, and cinema is the same. It's entertainment, it's a form of art. And paintings before, like people were contemplating a painting, like wow, feeling emotions. And art is just a way to express emotion and to make people feel what you feel. That's it. I think like when you look at a painting in a museum, you have an impression, or you will have feelings coming out, or you will have an experience. And the experience will be there when you see it and when you think about it after. At the end, everything is happening in your brain. So for a piece of digital art, you will see it, and then you remember it or not, like a movie. and the movie you can see it again or not. So the same for digital art. It's just like perhaps the medium is not like as easy because cinema is everywhere. You have like, or you can get like DVD or Blu-ray and can watch it at home now, but it took time like to get this. Before people were going to the theater and watching a movie, and then they are playing the movie and they don't have any tape to record or to get it again. So I think digital art perhaps is right there. Like we still at the beginning of the theater or the cinema, in a fest like before with a big like sheet on the wall and a train passing, people were freaking out. It was digital art. Like Light Brothers, like doing this, it was kind of digital art, like a big train, and everybody's like, ah! Now you have Avatar, where it's like, yeah, Avatar is not so bad. Well, you have blue guys like jumping, it's not so bad. But before, the people were freaking out with the train passing in a tent. And I think this train was a piece of digital art, making people feel something, and it was like, wow, but they can see just one, or they pay to see it. And now, with MR or ER, like we can reproduce, but I think it's the same. Like it's as immaterial, but you can still feel things and remember it. Like Jurassic Park. I saw Jurassic Park, this movie was crazy. And I still remember when the T-Rex is like, ah! Contemporary artists, yeah, and I wish we worked with them one day. I love Miyakaze as a contemporary artist. I love what his work, like really like colorful, and I like Kunst too. Hirtz. Now for digital art, I got friends that do. I like for both GeM too. Like we were close from them at some point. Vic Muniz, I really like what he does. I work with Vic in Vancouver. So we work with different like Sonia Su, very good too. Like we work with some like guys and doing like some art and digitalize their art because they're more like into like real material things. And we went mapping with them or having some idea of mixing like real painting and mapping and visual and have something moving. Like we still can create things. There is no one format. There are a lot of different formats. So there is a lot of people that I like, and some other I wish I could work with them. Like Banksy, I wish I could do something, a piece with this guy one day. But I don't know who he is. Nobody would know who he is. But it would be nice just to meet and say, oh, let's do something crazy. Like, yeah. And we have some concept that we think about, like how to, from the real, to put it, not virtual, but like to make it like move on mapping or interactive with people. Like we have some concept that we thought about with some friends. But I don't know, and I'm still open. And in any way, like it's always happening like when it needs to be happening. You know what I mean? Like it's you have to be open, but it will always happen at a good timing anyway. So that's it. And some musicians too. Like I said, I was speaking about Blondish. Vivian we work in Tulum together, and we made a small show. Went to San Francisco and London and Paris, and we created a piece of interactive music and visual. It was insane. Like people were like, wow. And see, this was for me. This contemporary art too, but more based on music. But like it's really like to have music making visuals, and the musician can create his own visual to tell a story with a big narrative and everything. And people liked it. Like people were like, because they never saw something like this before, and it's always a new experience. But you can mix different type of art in what we do and digitalize it at the end.